Welcome to this week's Resilience by Default Deep Dive podcast. Today, we're diving deep into Terry's article to fundamentally shift how we think about protecting our organizations. We're going to break down some incredibly insightful concepts that will totally challenge the status quo on how leadership views risk, preparedness, and ultimately accountability. If you've ever felt like your organization is just checking boxes when it comes to being prepared, well, this explainer is going to give you a completely fresh perspective. Okay, let's kick off this explainer by asking you the exact standard question posed in Terry's article. And I really want you to take a second and mentally answer it. What is your organization's approach to operational resilience? Just imagine you're sitting in a boardroom right now and I asked you this directly. What would your immediate response be? Would you start listing off your disaster recovery sites? Maybe you'd mention a specific software tool? Just keep your honest answer in mind as we move forward, because 9 out of 10 senior leaders respond to this very question with a pattern that's fascinating, but honestly, pretty troubling.
Here is our roadmap for today as we dismantle those common assumptions and build a totally new strategic framework. We'll be looking at the mechanism trap, finding the missing why, the core principle, the 6 pillars of purpose, and finally, real confidence. Let's jump right into section 1, the mechanism trap, or missing the purpose.
Now, there's a really stark contrast between just listing out technical mechanisms and actually understanding the true purpose that resilience is meant to secure. When asked about their approach, leaders almost always rattle off a list of mechanisms, right? Things like tests, daily activities, and compliance exercises. But what is almost invariably missing is the why, the actual purpose, the core intent, and those strategic outcomes. It seems we've become so totally obsessed with the doing of resilience that we've completely lost sight of what resilience is actually meant to protect in the first place.
Moving right along to section 2, finding the missing why and defining outcomes.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that resilience is not just some technical IT exercise. Rather, it's a deep commitment to 3 foundational outcomes: financial safety and soundness, customer protection, and societal stability. This is a massive shift in mindset. You aren't just restoring a server, you are actively protecting your customers and, quite literally, ensuring the stability of the society that relies on your services. This approach has to be grounded in strong leadership values, specifically clarity, honesty, courage, and ownership, all driven by solid evidence-based decision-making. That, my friends, is the true why.
Which brings us perfectly to section 3, the core principle, our absolute baseline.
The core principle mapped out in Terry's article uses the classic rule of 3 to highlight the protection of people, markets, and organizations. Take a second to really absorb this definition. The ultimate goal is to protect them all from intolerable harm. And how exactly do we do that? By ensuring that critical services remain trustworthy, transparent, and recoverable under all conditions. Not just under ideal sunny day conditions, and definitely not just when it's convenient, but under all conditions. This right here is the absolute bedrock of the entire resilience philosophy we're unpacking today.
Let's transition over to section 4, the 6 pillars of purpose, covering our strategic focus areas.
To actually achieve that core principle we just talked about, we have to rely on 6 specific pillars. These first 2 pillars focus heavily on visibility and regulator-aligned insight, making sure leaders know exactly what needs strengthening. Pillar 1 is transparency. Simply put, you cannot fix what you cannot see. So making risks, dependencies, and vulnerabilities completely visible is a non-negotiable step for decisive action. Then we have Pillar 2, honesty. This means delivering unambiguous, crystal-clear insights into where harm actually emerges. It's really about cutting right through the usual corporate fluff and getting a totally honest, regulator-aligned view of your true vulnerabilities. Now, the next 2 pillars demand real accountability for critical services and guarantee that our commitments, both to our customers and regulators, are actually met in the real world. Pillar 3, courage, is all about leadership stepping up. It means taking genuine accountability, making those incredibly difficult prioritization decisions, and crucially, actually investing the capital required to prevent harm. Pillar 4 is delivery, because, let's be real, it is not enough for a service to just look resilient on a whiteboard. It absolutely must perform reliably in practice. And the final 2 pillars lock in our overarching goals by keeping disruptions within set tolerances and treating resilience as a genuine strategic capability. Pillar 5 is preventing harm. Look, disruptions are going to happen. That's just a fact of life. But this pillar ensures those disruptions never exceed our agreed tolerances, actively protecting citizens and markets. And finally, Pillar 6, safety.
This is exactly where resilience evolves from being just a back office function into a core strategic capability that safeguards trust, stability, and long-term value for the entire organization. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Real Confidence, going completely beyond mechanisms. We need to take a second and aggressively debunk some of these industry buzzwords. Terry's article makes it brilliantly clear that these are simply mechanisms, not the actual definition of resilience itself. Chaos engineering, BCM tests, red team exercises, cross-sector simulations. I mean, don't get me wrong, while they are certainly useful tools, they do not define operational resilience. If your entire strategy is just running these exercises over and over, you are squarely caught in the mechanism trap we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer. This brings us to the true emotional and strategic payoff of our entire framework, proving that confidence is our ultimate objective. To quote Terry's article directly, the real purpose is confidence that critical services continue and harm is prevented. That right there is what you are actually building. You aren't just building a disaster recovery plan, you are building confidence. You are actively building trust with your regulators, your customers, and your board. This entire philosophy underpins the Resilience by Default framework as a true values-driven commitment. It shifts the narrative completely. Resilience by default is not some tedious check-the-box compliance obligation that you absolutely dread updating every year. It is a strategic, values-driven commitment to the people and the markets that we serve. It's a genuine promise that your organization will be there when they need you the most. So I want to leave your team with this final, incredibly important question. Are you building mechanisms or are you building confidence? Take this question back to your next leadership meeting. Seriously, challenge your colleagues to answer it honestly. It might just change the entire trajectory of your organization's strategy. And remember, podcasts released every Tuesday on Spotify and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and repost. It helps us build the channel and focus on what's important to you.